Evelyn, Mr. Hyde. Evelyn pulled back. She stared at Quentin Curry as though he'd lost his mind. "Let go of me." A clammy foreboding crawled up and down her skin. She shivered. Goosebumps began to sprout on her arms. Quentin gripped her tighter. The force of his fingers left imprints in her skin. "Can't do that, Evelyn. Didn't you hear me? I said now and forever." He laughed at the bewilderment and utter lack of comprehension that flashed across her face. A sense of unreality dug its clutches into Evelyn. Quentin's once expressive eyes were now only twin holes of black nothingness. Gone were any traces of the warmth and compassion that had embraced her earlier. "You're crazy," she stuttered. "I want you out of my life. Let go of me." Quentin shook his head. "What you want and what you get are two different things, Evelyn. You're never going to leave me, and I'm never going to leave you. Don't you get it? I said there will never be an escape for you. I always say what I mean, and I always mean what I say." "No, you're a maniac. Let go of me," she screamed. Her words blew away on the fury of the winds of the rain, as though a great sea was carrying them away. Looking into his face, a wave of senselessness rushed over her. She spat a rush of words in his face. "I changed my mind about being with you. You're not who I thought you were." "You changed your mind." Quentin looked up at the stormy skies. "Did you say you changed your mind? You don't change your mind, Evelyn, unless I change it for you. Understood?" Quentin's words were cold and precise, his voice never raised by a note. Now, Evelyn knew two things: real fear and the fact that she needed to get away from him. A surge of strength rose up in her. It was a strength born out of desperation. She wrenched her body free from Quentin's hold and ran wildly down the street. Her legs and feet were bare. Her sandals were long forgotten. Long, wet strands of hair clung to her head and face. The echo of her bare feet striking the wet pavement provided her with the rhythmic chaos that spurred her on. Evelyn blew the hair out of her eyes. She willed her legs to pump harder, faster, as a numbness clawed at her body. No way could she stop. She looked briefly behind her. She panted as she picked up her pace, sprinting toward safety, which loomed not far in the distance. Quentin Curry was a powerful, arrogant, and magnetic man. He was at the height of his physicality. His limbs were long and lithe. His carriage was tall and erect. He possessed a demeanor that indicated fierce pride. He watched Evelyn run down the street. He was not at all concerned about her temporary escape. In fact, he wasn't the least bit perturbed. Quentin was a man of many layers with a sadistic streak a mile long. His extreme confidence bordered on a godlike level. He was a man who knew his own power, and one who had come into power by refusing to obey any boundaries but his own. Accustomed to getting his own way, he knew he had time. Lazily, a sardonic smile crept across his face. His was a face that could have been sculpted by one of the masters. His face was masterful in the pure architecture of it, in the chiseled lines that outlined his features. It was a face with many textures and layers that he used at will. Quentin wondered why people didn't realize they couldn't run from their fate. He studied the picture that was Evelyn. He knew he had chosen carefully. Oh, ever so carefully. Evelyn was the only child of deceased parents who left her with enough money that she would never have to worry about it in her lifetime. She was a loner, very isolated for one so young, always preferring her own company to that of others. She spent most of her time rummaging in bookstores and in the dusty corners of various libraries. The single link that connected her to the world was her writing. Ah, yes, her writing. Perhaps a most useful tool. She didn't have any real friends. All of her friends, imaginary to be sure, and relationships resided between the pages of books. Her friends were in the notes of the music she loved so much. That was the extent of it. Evelyn stumbled in the wet street. She threw her hands out in front of her body to regain her balance. Her legs ached, throbbed actually, with pain. Or was it with fear? She didn't know. "Legs, please don't fail me now," she whispered desperately. She had never been so scared in her life. A stray cat ran out from its shelter into the rain. He caused Evelyn to practically jump out of her skin. She turned to look behind her, finding no sign of Quentin. She took a deep breath to quell her quivering body and kept running. She looked around the deserted street. There was no sign of life on the street, just her. "Somebody help," she whispered. "Somebody, please help." There was no one to hear her. Quentin lounged in the park contemplating his plan. He knew Evelyn thought he was behind her, chasing her. That was enough to keep her where he wanted her. He was a chaser, though not in the way she would expect. He could chase her without moving a muscle, just as effectively, more in fact, as if he had run after her. Anyway, he knew there would be no prying into the changes she was about to undergo. He thought about the Reverend Irwin Jackson, but quickly dismissed the thought as being of little consequence. Reverend Irwin Jackson was Evelyn's minister. His was the one relationship she seemed to foster. The Reverend's presence might lend a bit of an edge to the game. Breeding was important, and Evelyn's lineage showed good breeding. He'd done his checklist centuries in advance. He'd been waiting for her arrival, for her birth. Now it was time. He'd been watching. Watching was what he did. Watching and observing were part of his highly honed and sharpened skills. He knew her womb was young and untouched. She was pure. This was very necessary to his plan. He could not funnel through tainted goods. He smiled. He was satisfied with the wisdom of his choice. One had to create his own opportunities, and he had certainly created his. In his supreme arrogance, he settled on a single thought. The girl is in for the treat of her life, and she's running from me. Quentin shook his head in amazement. He dropped his cigarette lighter. He reached to pick it up. Tattooed in the back of his right hand was an X. He lit a cigarette as the mist of the rainy night shrouded him. The predator in him inched its way to the forefront. The pull of it tingled through his body. The sleek black panther of spirit he possessed was now on the prowl. It was lurking just beneath the surface. Evelyn heaved air in great gulps as she raced up the steps of the Victorian house she had inherited from her parents. It was one of the last of its kind left in the Newark neighborhood. The house carried a certain presence. It had an ominous yet old elegant air about it. It was wrapped in an air of quiet dignity. In the dark of this night, it was possessed with a spirit of stillness. Evelyn fumbled with her keys, looking wildly behind her. She tried to jam the key in the lock. She fumbled again. The wet keys slipped from her shaking fingers and dropped to the porch floor. She picked them up. She worked at steadying herself. She tried again. The lock clicked. She bolted through the front door. She slammed it shut and locked it behind her. Evelyn raced into the solarium. She locked that door too. She stood trembling as little pools of water formed on the floor from her bare wet feet. She was completely unaware of the youth.